everyone. Welcome to today's session, A Perspective Vision on Railways program on Logi TV. Today's guest is a valuable and special transport engineer and professor in intermodal logistics from Italy, Trieste port. This line between Trieste and Turkey is a high interesting line for the combined transport between railway and maritime in Italy, but also in Turkey. So here we are now. Giovanni, could you please introduce yourself? Welcome to our program.
Thank you and welcome also from my side. Good morning. As Dr. Turkeray was saying, I am a transportation engineer. I am professor at the University of Trieste in the transportation sector. And since 2007, I had the opportunity to work at worldwide level in the field of railway analysis and simulation and in the field of intermodal traffic. In particular, I am cooperating with the Trieste Port Authority. And as we will see in the next minutes, this port has a really very important role in the intermodal traffic between Turkey and Europe, thanks to very, very good intermodal connection with maritime and landside section of the transportation.
Thank you very much for the nice introduction. And we are very much looking forward to hear the insights for this very highly capacitated and very good intermodal terminal in Trieste port as well. So I will start with my first question. What is the significance of the transportation connection between Turkey and Trieste port, and how often and in what manner does transportation from Turkey and Trieste port occur?
So thank you for this question. That transport between Italy and, let's say, Europe on one side and Turkey on the other side is really relevant in the port of Trieste. Just to give to you some numbers, but in the last year, almost more than 350,000 vehicles have been carried using intermodal services from Turkey to Europe through the port of Trieste. And also more than 100,000 TUs, just to give to you a few numbers. These transportation are carried out using regular services that connects three main ports in Turkey: the Pendik terminal near Istanbul, the Çeşme terminal in the area of Izmir, and the port of Mersin on Turkey side, and the port of Trieste on the other side. There are more than 2 services in the average per day, because the total number of arrival and departure of these maritime services between these two countries is around 16 per week. That is a very huge number. These services are carried out using vessels that are quite large and that can carry up to 450 units per vessel, which means that the capacity of the connection from maritime perspective is really high. This is important. That is the organization of the transportation of the freights. But in my opinion, it is really important that there are daily flight connection to carry the drivers. So it is not needed that drivers travel on the ships together with their trailer. So the trailer are traveling by ships, and drivers can work for 1 or 2 days either in Turkey or in Europe, and then they take the plane and arrive exactly in the port when their trailer is arriving. Because the transit time, maritime transit time between Italy and Turkey it depends on the port, of course, but it is around between 52 or 65 hours, so between 2 and 3 days. So if the trailer is traveling from 3 days, if the driver can fly it in half a day, so each driver, while the trailer is traveling on the ship, can work or do something else for around 2 days. This is a really important thing that make this connection really convenient from economic perspective. And these volumes are quite high. It is really very important traffic for the port of Trieste, and it is a really important traffic for the connection between Turkey and Europe, I believe.
Yes, it's coming.
Okay.
Yes.
This is a picture. Can you see the screen?
Yes, we can see the both ships, both vessels.
Okay. This is a picture in the port of Trieste where you can see 2 ships. So you can also have an idea of which kind of vessels are used. And you can see that in each vessel, there are more than hundreds of trailers. Then you have the terminal in Trieste that is really well organized to perform the connection between maritime transportation and landside transportation, because when the trailers are discharged from the ship, they can either proceed their trip to Europe using road traffic. You can see here a lot of trucks on the right, or they can be placed on the trains using that crane that you can see also here. You can see that there is the ship coming from Turkey. There is a rail-mounted gantry crane. There are 4 railway trucks under the crane. So directly in the terminal, it is possible to load the trailers coming from the ship directly to the trains. And then there are regular railway connection from the port of Trieste to many destinations in Europe. And also these connection by railway are really a very good services. There are more than 90 services per week connecting this terminal to different terminals in Europe that you can see. You can see in this slide here. This is how now the connection between Turkey and Europe take place through the port of Trieste. You see the 3 ports in Turkey, and you see the port of Trieste and a subset of railway connection that are specifically designed to serve Turkish traffic. You can go to Luxembourg, to a number of terminals in Germany. You can go in Austria. You can go also in the Czech Republic. So it is really a very good network. That is a subset of the railway connection that are offered through the port of Trieste that you can see here. From Trieste, you can reach almost the whole central part and eastern part of Europe.
That's very interesting. Very interesting. Thanks a lot. And could you please also tell us information about the railway capacity of Trieste port and the role it plays in transportation with Turkey? And in the meanwhile, also in addition, what are the ongoing efforts to expand and enhance the railway network in Trieste port?
Sure. I go back to other slides and figures that I prepared, because in order to speak about railway capacity, just a brief introduction on how is the configuration of the railway network that serve the port of Trieste at the national level. Then we will go in much more detail what is happening in the port of Trieste. Here you can see that there are the connection between the port of Trieste, near Trieste Centrale, and Europe. We have 2 international lines. I don't know if you can see my pointer. I don't know. I hope so. Here is Treviso Boscoverde, is the railway international line to Austria and to the north. This line from Udine to Treviso belongs to the European corridor, Baltic-Adriatic corridor, connecting Austria and then Poland and then Hungary and then the Baltic region. And from this side, Vilopicina, you have another cross-border for an international line going to Slovenia, Croatia, and the eastern part of Europe. And this east-west connection belongs to the European, the TEN-T trans-European network, European corridor, that is the Mediterranean corridor. So Trieste is well connected with two European corridors, the East-West corridor and the North-South corridor through this region. Here there are some specific, all these lines have residual capacity. All these lines have a very interesting gabarit that is specifically designed for intermodal traffic. But there are maybe some bottlenecks that I can show you later how these bottlenecks will be removed in the international programs. This is a schema, let's say, of the configuration of the railway network inside the port. Here is the port, you can see. Here there is the city. So there is a connection between the port and the main Italian network that cross the city under a tunnel. So there is no problems, no any interference between the port traffic and the city, even if the port is inside the city. From this point up, of course, the freight traffic are also mixed with the passenger traffic that use these lines. And then there are a lot of railway last mile connection with the corresponding shunting areas that are available for the maritime traffic. Mm-hmm. At the moment, there are some projects that are shared between Port Authority, the government, both the national and the regional level, and the railway infrastructure manager, that is Rete Ferroviaria Italiana in Italy, in order to remove all the possible bottlenecks that can allow the increase of railway traffic in the next years. And these bottlenecks refer on one side on this line that exits from Trieste. This is a single track line that will be double. Here there will be some improvements regarding signaling. We will solve some conflicts in this junction and solve some issues regarding the cross-border activities in this station. So you can see that there is at the national, international level, a sort of system-wide perspective regarding investments, because all these parties believe really in the increase of railway traffic. So all these bottlenecks that have been identified are to be solved according to the national commercial plan in a couple of years. Regarding the port of, because the idea is to create this very interesting connection between the two railway corridors that I introduced before and the system of based on the port of Trieste, but that can benefit also from other couple of intermodal terminals that are the port of Monfalcone, the intermodal in Gorizia, Cervignano, and whatever, to create a system of terminals, intermodal terminals, well connected to the European network, to the two corridors, to create a very good service for intermodal traffic. Regarding the port of Trieste, in this slide, you can see all the investments that are ongoing to increase the capacity of the station that are the connection between the national network and the last mile connection with the terminals in all these points. So at the end of the story, you can see also estimated time frame 2024, 2025, 2026 at the maximum. So in the next 3 years, all this intervention will be performed. And the idea is to offer, at the end of the story, a capacity of 25,000 trains per year. At the moment, the number of trains per year is around 10,000. So all these projects allow more than double traffic than today. And these investments are well connected with what is ongoing on the national network. So there is a very strict connection between what is being done in the port and what is being done in the network. There is a final very important thing, in my opinion, is that these investments are also linked together with other, let's say, soft measures. Measures regarding the management of the last mile connection, all the shunting activities between terminals and the railway network is another usually critical issue for intermodal services. And it is really important, the vision that this Port of Trieste had a couple of years ago, to create, on one side, taking into consideration the competition among railway undertaking companies that operate the trains from Trieste to Europe. There are 7, 8 railway undertaking companies operating in Trieste on one side. On the other side, there was the need to optimize the connection of the last mile between terminal and the railway network. So the port decided to create an entity that is completely belong completely to the Port Authority, but it is a different entity, specifically devoted to the railway shuntings inside the port. It is again a very interesting situation that allow to optimize also the last mile connection. And it is really important. It is thanks to this also organization of the shuntings that it will be possible to reach this very high level of capacity. It is more than double than the actual traffic.
Wow.
I have a final, let's say, things that is really important, in my opinion, regarding Trieste, is that there is a very important and shared view, strategy that is shared among the different entities. So in this port, we will reach these results thanks to the fact that the railway strategy have been shared between Port Authority, the governments, both at the national and at the regional level, the railway infrastructure manager, of course, according to the needs of terminal operators and logistics operator. There is a common view, and this common view really allows to create, on one side, very competitive services, and on the other side, define the investments that are needed to make even more convenient these intermodal alternatives, also in case of the increase of traffic. This is really, in my opinion, a very important point. Share the strategy.
So Trieste Railport is well prepared for the future. So for the future capacities ahead.
Yes, also because there is another issue here. I don't know if I have it. I should have also a slide, but I don't find it. Anyway, sorry. Because there is also in Trieste a master plan that have been approved that on the other side, on the maritime side, will increase the dimension of the terminals. So there will be the increase of the dimension of the terminal from maritime traffic, the organization of the last mile connection to the railway network, the improvement of the railway network and its capacity in the junction of Trieste, thanks to the activities of the Port Authority, the improvement of the capacity of all the railway network at the national level, removing all the bottlenecks, to make it possible the increase of traffic, of intermodal traffic from Turkey to Europe. A last figure that I can share with you is that at the moment, this logistics opportunity is really so convenient that the 42% of the total traffic coming from Turkey via these maritime services go to Europe using the railway transportation mode. 42% is really a high modal split to railway. It is really important also from environmental perspective because this allows a reduction of more than 20,000 tons per year regarding CO2 and carbon emissions.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And regarding that, you you are explaining that Trieste Port has an increased investment to increase capacity, and it has also a well-established master plan. So what is the importance of Trieste Port then for the Turkish companies in this perspective? And what are the advantages to choosing this port and not another port in Europe? And what do you think, what are the challenges and limitations for Turkish companies in the current phase in using it?
But I think that the advantages are really, in my opinion, clear, and that's why there are all these connection between Turkey and Europe via Trieste. The advantage is maybe the fact that in Trieste and the connection between Trieste and Europe, there is a common strategic vision that is shared among all the public entities. So there is all the government and the public entities that are really believing in the increase of railway traffic through the port of Trieste. So there will be any issue regarding lack of capacity, nor in the port, neither in the port and nor in the railway sector. Second, I believe that the very high number of services between Trieste and Europe and between Trieste and Turkey make it really competitive, the transportation path to Trieste, because you have really frequent services connecting these two countries via Trieste. Third, you can see in this slide that if you go from Turkey to the central and eastern part of Europe, it seems to be also a sort of shortest path to go to Europe, because the Adriatic Sea is really well connected and well oriented in the direction between Turkey and Europe. And all these features make this connection through the Port of Trieste really interesting. Also, given all the organization that are in behind, the flights for the drivers, all the agreement with the customs and whatever. Trieste is a free port with a lot of customs and fiscal benefits for some kind of freights. So I really believe that it is a very good option. What are some, let's say, problems that can arise? What I can see is only that there could be maybe some issues regarding the optimization also, and here we can do something, I believe, the optimization also of this transportation on the Turkish side. Because the fact that while the ships are traveling, drivers can do something else in Europe, it is really very good options also in the Turkish side of this connection, maritime connection. So it is really a very interesting point from economic perspective. It is like that a driver can drive in the same time two trucks, because one is traveling on the ship, and while the trailer is traveling on the ship, the driver can drive something else, either in Europe or in Turkey. It is really interesting. And there will be also, there will not be any capacity constraints, in my opinion, because the investments are going to prevent capacity constraints.
It sounds very promising. Thank you.
Exactly.
Now, I'm stepping into my last question. What developments are expected in the transportation connection between Turkey and Italy in the future? And especially regarding the changes in logistics sector, as you know, it's very dynamic currently, and upcoming projects. Could you share your insights, please?
Of course, this question is not so easy, Turker, as you know. My opinion is that it is in these days it's really difficult to have some insights for the future in the logistics sector, as you know. because it is obviously always difficult to have some insights, but specifically in these days, because the crisis both regarding the Russia-Ukraine war in the north side of this figure and the issues regarding the Red Sea crisis on the other side make really difficult to understand what will happen regarding the logistics sector. But I think that these two very disruptive situations that can affect the global traffic between the Far East and Europe and the west side of the world may, in my opinion, create a very interesting situation for Turkey, because Turkey is now, in my opinion, is still a sort of crossing point between east and west of the world. But in particular, regarding these two very difficult situations, the transportation through Turkey may really increase, in my opinion. And if this will be true, if there will be also from Turkish perspective the strategy to increase also the capacity of the freight traffic through Turkey, both on railway, but mainly on railway, because railway is really for longer distance also really economically convenient. I believe that the traffic between the Turkish port and Trieste and in general the European port may really increase in the future. And this connection may become really strategic for all the large part of the east-west global traffic and trade. Of course, all also know that the routes of the container vessels will have another track, another path, going around Africa to the port of the north, maybe. But I really believe that in this situation, the short sea shipping in the Mediterranean area between Turkey and Europe will increase. And I think that this route is really competitive against all the other alternatives to the connection between these two countries. I have some good inside Turkey, in my opinion.
That sounds
especially if all the chains of this logistics chain will be optimized.
Mm-hmm. So it's great to have you here on board. We would like to continue a lot, but unfortunately our time is running up. Thanks a lot, Professor Longo, for the all comprehensive information you provided on the intermodal transport between Europe and Turkey. And wish you great success in your further projects.
Also, thank you, and maybe also in our common project, because I believe that a strong connection between the European side on this connection and on Turkish side can really increase. I would be more than happy to share with you my experience, because I believe that Trieste may be considered as a very interesting benchmark for how to organize the logistics chain in the intermodal traffic, also in the Turkey ports, in my opinion.
As a great example is a best practice, of course. We are going to look deeper on it. Now, we hope you like the program, and for watchers, we are saying stay tuned for the next session. Goodbye. Thank you.
Goodbye. Have a nice day. Thank you.